Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Everyday Adventure podcast. We are joined today by a good friend, Kimberly Stuart. Kimberly is an author of 8 fiction books, and she just wrote her first nonfiction book, Star for Jesus and Other Jobs I Quit, and it's a memoir of her life, but really about how she's uncovered grace in her life, and I'm excited for you to get to meet her. She's from Iowa. I met her at the Bob Goff writing retreat. She's one of the presenters there. She helps him with all of that stuff. And I just really enjoyed getting to know her. And so this conversation was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What can we expect from your conversation with Kimberly?
Yeah, I went into it. I had read her book and got like a better flair of who she is. But it's not necessarily about her book. We just talk about some of the stories that come from her book and really how she's just seeing God's grace through all of these different things. And she is hilarious. I truly think that she could be a stand-up comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a petition of people that were at the retreat with me that also believe the same thing. But she just has this amazing way of telling stories. And she tells a story about this guy named Sparky and how her dad had tried to track him down and went door to door trying to find Sparky and all these fun like moments. But she has this really cool way of kind of tying into how that's helped her grow in her faith, like how each of one of these stories. And I think what I hope for the listener is that they'll recognize that their story has a story and that their story is telling them something, and it can tell them something different if we allow it to. So I'm super excited for people to hear this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we hope you enjoy this week's episode with Kimberly Stuart.
Welcome back to the Everyday Adventure podcast. Today, I'm joined by my friend, Kimberly Stuart. How are you doing, Kim?
So great. Great to be here, Stephen. Thank you for asking me.
Hey, so great to have you. Kim, you and I met at Bob Goff's writing workshop. But before that, I met you through my ears with the Writing Room podcast. And so I feel like I had known you, but I didn't know you. And so it's just it's a privilege to know you.
That's a little thick, but I'll take it. Thank you.
No, but seriously, I enjoyed, because anybody that knows Bob and his like writing style and just him as a person, he is very scattered.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as like this session is about this. It's just here we are. I appreciate your organization and just like your linear way of thinking.
That's hilarious. No one's ever said that to me, but yes, I think he would probably concur with that
in
assessment.
Comparison. Maybe just in comparison.
We're a good team. I think we have different strengths and different weaknesses, and also we just think the world of each other, so it's really fun to work together.
What are your weaknesses?
Oh, I have so many. Wow, we're just starting there. You want to ask about my worst sin too? Should we just go straight?
Job interview style. No,
wow.
We don't have to start there. We can end there. We'll end with your weaknesses.
Something to look forward to.
But seriously, I think the cool thing is that you're working with Bob in those spaces. But I just love how that all came to be. You know, because I think a lot of times you see the side by side of like Kim and Bob, and it's like, well, I wonder what her story is. And so, do you mind just sharing how you got to that point? Because I think it's really cool.
Oh, sure. I met Bob because he came to our church to do a speaking engagement, and my pastor didn't want to open because it's alarming when you're in a room when people are checking their watches and saying to their friends, and you can read their lips, "When is Bob?"
Yeah.
So he asked me to open, which was not kind, but I do love my pastor and would walk on hot coals for him. So I said, sure, fine. It's going to be a bloodletting, but yes, I will take the little 10, 15-minute slot before him. And I had been hoping that I would have just one great conversation, or even just a neutral conversation with Bob. I know you and I talked about that at the Oaks, that sometimes you meet people who you've admired or whose work you have admired, and it's just such a downer. Authors, like anybody else, aren't necessarily very integrated people. They can really excel or shine in one area and really be not super kind people in other areas, even if they're writing about kindness. So I was hopeful that I would at least just remain neutral meeting Bob. I'd had some unfortunate experiences with other people before. And he absolutely blew out my expectations beyond. He was so kind, so encouraging. He sat in the front row, was basically a hype guy from the start, laughing at all my jokes. I thought he'd be in the green room. And no, he just took his cheese sandwich and sat in the front row. So that was the beginning of what became a really wonderful friendship and really more a mentorship at the beginning. I'd actually been praying about that, asking God for a mentor. I thought it was going to be some real sweet lady from, Iowa City or something, a
The big
retiree.
city.
Yeah, the big city. Well, I'm from Des Moines, so we're bigger than Iowa City, but you know what I'm saying. And it was Bob. He just really
Yeah.
stepped into that role and has been such a dear friend. And Maria has been such a dear friend to me. And so it was fun how it started, and it's been pretty much straight up fun ever since. It's a really wonderful thing. After that meeting, we kind of developed our friendship and we started working together. And now we have a coaching business where we coach individual writers. And then, as you mentioned, we also do writing retreats at the Oaks. And then we have a podcast as well. So all sorts of fun things happened out of that first cheese sandwich.
I love it. And I love that, that's how he functions is he just like uses his influence to lift others. But
Mm.
the thing that I noticed at the retreat is that all of you are that way.
Mm.
And I've just been really kind of impressed with that
Mm.
of all the things that I took away from the workshop. One of them was like, man, whatever level of influence I have now, I want to use it to lift
Mm.
others because all of you are just so open-handed and just the way that you're literally anything we can do. Like you're on this podcast today because you just believe in other people. Like, is
Mm.
that something that you carried with you, or was there a spark for that?
Oh, what a great question. And also what a kind compliment. I mean that's high praise. Um, I think I was wired to be an encourager. It's taken me a long time to just be fairly steady in that idea. I love the word encourage, that it means to infuse courage. So that's a pretty natural spot for me. I love to, it gives me a lot of joy to say out loud what I see, and to encourage people in whatever they're doing. I thought that everyone did that, and it took me a few years into adulthood to realize, oh, actually no. And working with Bob has been that idea on steroids because he takes so seriously the idea of living with your hands open. And I hear what you're saying and 100% agree. It's so refreshing to be around someone who has influence and is just ready to throw elbows to use that for the good of other people. So much of what we do and see, not just in the writing, publishing, speaking world, but in the world in general, is moving from a scarcity posture. So if I have to kind of hunch
Yeah.
over and make sure that what's mine is mine. And first of all, that's false. And secondly, it gives us just such an impoverished life. My husband he and his brother grew up fighting over very weird things, as siblings do. Who was going to be the first person to get to the toothpaste? Because the last
Yeah.
person had to put the toothpaste tube top back on, and that's a horrible job.
Right.
Okay, or it was in 1989. And so I always picture Mark said he would sit at the breakfast table and have his arm curled around his cereal so that Scott wouldn't steal his cereal, which is nonsensical. They had enough cereal. But I feel like we've laughed about that, but I feel like a lot of adults still move from that space. Like, if I have this, you can't. And if anyone else shares it, then it must dilute its power for me. And I think that's false. And I'm kind of on a mission to prove otherwise. So,
That's so cool. I think too, not everybody sees themselves as an author, obviously, or like, I think everybody has a book in them because we all have a story to tell. But I think with words in general, just the more that I've taken them seriously over the last several years in writing, the more I've realized like in our everyday lives, words have power. I know
mm,
I didn't coin that, so don't tell God that I'm coining that because I know that it's
I
in the
think you said it
Bible.
first. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I just think that that's an encouragement. So from an author's standpoint, and in I'll share a little bit more in the intro to this episode of your kind of background, but from an author's perspective, you've written what, nine books now,
I
almost to
think it's
10.
9. Yeah.
You're gonna get there. Yeah.
You
Let
just
me know when
round
it's
up.
10. Yeah,
It's
let me
pretty
know.
much 28.
But how would you encourage somebody that's maybe like, oh, I can't write, I can't. How
Mm,
would you encourage them to use their words more effectively?
mm. In a written context?
Either, in any context, just
Well, we
words.
practice first out loud. So I don't, that's kind of looping back to where we started at the top, that the goal would be that what you're writing is in sync with what you're living, which sounds really easy and pithy, and it's really hard. My most recent book was about grace. And I have regrets because now I have to be gracious because I wrote about it. And there have been plenty of times in the last bit where I would have preferred not to have that associated with my name. Turns out, I mean, Bob has talked about this too. It's really a pain in the tusher sometimes to be the love guy, right? Because we're
Yeah.
very human being-ish, and it's really hard to practice what we are writing. But that's the goal, to be moving in that same direction. And as for aspiring writers, this is not going to be a very flashy answer. But books, we write books by sitting and writing books. And so this is one word at a time, one paragraph at a time, one clunky sentence at a time. Typically, the the biggest speed bump for someone thinking about writing is themselves. It's not the story, it's not the concept, it's not the organization of 70,000 words in a manuscript. That stuff all comes later. Really, we're the ones who are in the way. So we can outthink the outthinker before we even take to the keyboard. So when folks come up to me and they say, I think I have a book in me, I'd like to write a book. Sometimes these folks have been in the I would like to phase for a really long time. And what's getting in the way is really just talking about it less and doing it more. That's not very fancy. And it's
Yeah.
not a very fun answer because it implies a lot of work and a lot of work on your own. But I found that if we get into the habit of doing that on a daily or weekly basis, it gets less and less terrifying and more, at least, doable. Are you going to write your magnum opus when you sit down the first time? I will encourage you by saying, no, absolutely not. But you can't edit a blank page, as wise people have said. And so moving those muscles, they get stronger, but you have to start.
I love that. And, I'm holding your book, which we love the
Oh,
cover. We all know that.
so embarrassing.
Um, but, Star for Jesus and Other Jobs I Quit, which is fantastic. But you, this is really a memoir or many stories from your life with obviously really practical, meaningful takeaways for us. But I think even in that writing style of kind of memoir of telling stories, and that's obviously very natural to you, but what did you learn as you kind of dove into some of those stories? Because I think
Mm,
one of the big themes of the podcast is just recognizing that life is an adventure, but to really go far, to go places, we have to know where we are and where we're coming from, and
mm,
really helping people understand that like my story has meaning and there's hard parts and there's high points. But for the most part, what I've realized is people don't stop to kind of see their story
mm,
and allow God to reframe it. And so you
mm,
sat down with that as being kind of the main objective. And so what are some of the things that you learned through that process?
mm. That's great. I had come out of a lot of fiction writing, and so my writing to that point in kind of in book form at least had all been fiction. And I was tiring of that. I decided I'd done that for a bit and I enjoyed it, but I was ready to try something else. And I naively thought, I'll just write true stories. That will feel seamless and easy. I won't have to make anything up. I'm just here for the facts, just reported. I was so silly. In some ways, it was easier. In some ways, there is a little bit of a delicious disconnect, particularly around the publication time, that doesn't come with fiction in terms of people can react the way they want to these stories, but they are
Yeah.
true. They can't dispute. As opposed to, a novel, people have all sorts of feelings about what happened on page 45 and what happened with the love interest and why didn't you do this? And they hold forth on Goodreads and everywhere else about how they feel about the plot. True stories are true. There's nothing you can say.
Yeah.
No one could say to me, "Did your dad really?" Yeah, he really did. I was there. So there is a little bit of a lovely, I'm just reporting the tough parts. And when you ask about what I learned, when we re-examine some of these places that we've visited or hung out for a long time, these stories that formed us, we're forced into staring them in the face. And we're forced into looking at this isn't just my story or even my family story. This changed something about me or how
Yeah.
something about how I felt about God. Or, there's there are quite a few moments in that book where I really didn't want to write about them. Moments of grief or disorder or chaos. Some of that chaos I brought on myself. We all kind of build these narratives around ourselves, and some of them are protective. And so I guess I learned that no story is outside the scope of the grace of God. That's probably the big one. That there was nothing in my retelling or revisiting, that showed God had been absent. And that's pretty big. That's a pretty big thing to hold fast to and has been in the last couple of years. So,
That's awesome. I feel even just in reading it, I was curious at different points of did you did the perspective come through writing and
yeah,
through kind of revisiting?
yes, yes, oftentimes, yes. Um, I heard one time a long time ago, this was like a forensic something-ish, okay? Forensic expert something. And this is on the radio, and I wish I knew the original source because I've thought about it many times since. This person was talking about memory and how if the more we revisit a memory, the less accurate we are. So in other words, the brain works that if you're really taking that file folder out a lot, you are starting to remember things incorrectly, probably, as opposed to a memory. They're talking in terms of giving witness in a court. If the witness has never retold or has not often retold or has not been back to that memory, they'll probably be more accurate because it's
Mm,
pristine in the vault. For writing, the more familiar the story, oftentimes the harder the writing for me because those stories kind of take on a life of their own. There's
right.
one story in the book about I was run over by a car when I was 2 years old, and it was very devastating. And I wasn't supposed to live. And if I was to live, I was not supposed to be able to function on my own. And God miraculously healed me. This is a pivotal point in our family history. It is the reason that my dad served Jesus for the rest of his life. And that story has been told many, many, many times in multiple languages. I I have spoken it in Spanish in probably 7 different countries with my dad, translating for him to people in the room. And so, I mean, we have visited that memory. Writing about it was intimidating to me because I thought this carries the weight of my spiritual heritage. How will I ever be able to do justice to it? So I had to kind of chill out about that and ask the story, I guess, well, what do you have for me today? Like how does this story intersect with grace? And I'll just take one teeny tiny thing because most good stories have a lot to teach us. So yeah, there were lots of moments like that in the writing of this book where I thought, oh gosh, okay, I'm learning even as I'm writing.
Yeah. I think that's one of the fun things about that work of just reflection in general is that especially when time has passed, I know that's something that in writing my own book that those meanings kind of, oh, that wasn't there before, or that
Right.
that kind of I don't know, takeaway. I'm a practical guy. I was a
Yeah.
pastor for a decade or plus. And so, but just to see those things that come out of those stories, but like I've heard before, you can't overcome a barrier that you're not willing to admit exists,
Mm,
that, and I think that's a lot of the time for me of looking back and seeing those things. And I was
mm.
going to actually ask about the car. It was a convertible, a red convertible, as you point out. I'm glad the detail is there. But something that your dad said, and I'm going to mess up the quote, but it was something about, I'm just reporting the facts, and someday Jesus will say what really
Explain it.
happened. Yeah,
Hmm.
we'll explain it. Talk about that,
Hmm.
because I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, that my dad's takeaway was, I'm sorry, I'm going to pause here. Can you hear my schnauzer?
I cannot hear, no, I cannot hear your schnauzer.
Well, good. Then we're just going to keep talking and ignore him. He's probably fine. He tends towards hysteria. Okay, starting that again. I don't know if you do any producing here, but we're going to keep on going. Okay, so
Barely. So I like, this
leave
could just
it
stay.
in.
This is fun.
Leave in the schnauzer.
The schnauzer
Oh
stays.
boy. You really can't hear him. He's so obnoxious.
No, I can't. Not in, like, is
I
he
am in
snoring? Is
awe
he
of my
barking?
microphone. He's barking his head off. It's probably the UPS guy. I really want to scream at him, but I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna leave it alone because I wrote a book on grace and I have to even be gracious to my dog. Okay.
There are loopholes. There's
Is the
exceptions.
dog a loophole?
I think so.
Are mini schnauzers a
I
loophole?
think
I'm
mini
taking it.
schnauzers. Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
taking it. I'm taking it. Okay, so my dad's summary after this very pivotal experience was, we're reporting it. Someday Jesus will explain it. And that's a pretty darn good posture for all of us. It's taken me many, many years to hold fast to that because I like an explanation. I like Jesus to explain to me what
Right.
he's doing. And I prefer for him to do it in a 3-point sermon with alliteration in real time. So far, he has not cooperated with me in that request. So my dad was wise. He was a really, really baby Christian when he wrote those words, and he was smart to say, he already knew, I think, in some way that we would have lots of questions over the years from people who prayed big prayers and did not get the answers they wanted. And we are people who have prayed big prayers and have not gotten the answers we wanted. What do you do with that? What do you do? What do you do when you don't get what you want and you can't quite understand how a God who is good wouldn't give you a good thing? So, saying and believing someday Jesus will explain this. Right now, we tell our story. Right now, we tell the whole story. Right? Bob always says that verb or that verse in the Bible where the writer says, "Let the redeemed of the Lord say so." It actually means let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story. So
Yeah.
there's something in the telling. There's something in the telling that's worthwhile.
That's so good. I love that. I think for each one of us listening, I think that aspect of, we don't know the details, and you go into more in your book even of other experiences, whether that be miscarriages. And
Mm,
I know that's something that my wife and I have experienced, and there isn't an explanation for it. And
mm,
you talk about a list of things not to say in those moments, and I
mm.
think as I was reading them, I'm like, I'm pretty sure we heard them all, and
Yeah,
there's a chance that I even said a couple of
totally.
them, trying to console my wife and trying
Mm,
to find meaning in that. And I think just that aspect of life and this adventure of life that we talk about on the podcast and in my book, adventure isn't just the high point happy moments. Adventure is often a retelling of the low points,
yeah,
the harrowing points, and
yeah.
how we get through it. And so, in whether it's in your writing experience or just in your life experience, things like that, how have you kind of embraced God or leaned into Him in those difficult, challenging moments or seasons?
Mm. Oh, golly. Um, That's an I'm trying to find the adjective for that question. I was going to say an exposing one, but that's going in a direction I didn't mean to. It feels I'm not one to shy away from vulnerability, but that particular question is rough because I want to do right by it. And oftentimes I think we as people of faith, our knee-jerk reaction is just what you mentioned, to say something that sounds good, to say something that tickles the ears and helps us feel better about the glory to come. And as a person who writes a lot about faith and is neck deep in thinking about faith and trying to live out an authentic faith every day, we do ourselves a disservice by saying things like that. Because the truth is that not every time do we respond with full throttle faith and full throttle clarity. And we should not feel one bit sad or bad about that. We have a lot of examples in scripture. The entire book of Psalms has been very comforting to me in the last 9 months or so. My dad died suddenly this last summer as a result of a botched surgery that was supposed to take 40 minutes and not a big deal. And he never woke up. And so I won't talk too much about that because you don't need to hear me snot all over the microphone. It has been incredibly traumatic and very difficult. And a lot of the Psalms have been like, they've been a balm to me because David does not shy away, particularly David, in shaking his fist and saying, "Where are you? I can't see you. I don't see in the dark right now, and this feels dark." For months after my dad died, I felt so disoriented. I've had seasons of grief where I felt just lock in step with Jesus. I felt like we were breathing the same air and he was so close. And I did not feel that this time with my dad. And that was so disorienting to me because my days begin before I open my eyes. My day begins with, okay, God, you and me, man. And I did not feel that at all. I felt alone, and a little abandoned. But because I've had a couple miles here, and have seen him not always respond to my memos of how I think he should move, I was able to pray. My most frequent prayer during those first few months was not, "I know that." I switched the verb tense to be more honest, and I would say, "I have known you to be. I have known in the past that you are. I have known you to be good and to not leave your kids and to love your kids." And so that was a comfort to me because first of all, I was saying the truth. I didn't make it up. I didn't say, "Oh yeah, God, I really feel your presence right now. It's healing me." I didn't. What is the result of those kinds of honest prayers has been a different kind of knowing and a different kind of limping with my hand clutching the hand of God. And I think that if I'd hurried that process, if I'd hurried the tied up bow and said, "Oh, I totally know. I know what you're up to here." I don't think I'd feel the same depth of understanding of a new kind of God's goodness and a new kind of his character because I would have rushed the process to tell him what I thought. And
Yeah,
by saying, "I don't know," he got to tell me a little bit more about what he thought.
that's really powerful. Thanks for sharing that because I really do think there's a lot of people that maybe feel that in some respect in their life of I don't have the bow, like I don't
Yeah.
have the end of that story, it still feels dark, like you said. And, I've heard it said of just us being honest or lacking that honesty of where we really are with God is like, telling you, hey, let's meet. Um, I'm trying to think of a middle ground point between North Dakota and Iowa, but let's meet
South
there.
Dakota.
But I tell you a destination that I'm not even going to be at. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes I wonder, why
Mm.
isn't God meeting me here? Well, it's because he's at the place that I said I'm at,
Mm.
and
Mm.
I just think that there's a level of that honesty of God meeting us there that is really powerful.
Mm.
And even in reading some of the other stories in your book, there's so many comedic stories and moments, and just with your dad, which is so fun,
Mm.
that you have those in writing, and that those
Mm.
are encapsulated in this way. But the Rambo story specifically
Oh dear.
got
He
me.
would be in prison now, but it's okay. It was the
He
90s.
didn't do anything about it. He just said he was going to do it.
Oh, that's true. It was an empty threat, it turned out to be. Yeah, you're referring to a time, and readers will just have to pick up the book. But it was a time when my dad went to bat for me with a boy who was inappropriate in his language.
The boy's name is
And
Sparky, which is also great.
well,
Just
I want you to know I changed his name so, because I
did
know
he
who he is.
have did
And
he
his
have a dog-like name in the first
He
place?
did. And his actual name, I will tell you off
Fido.
mic, and it is so much worse than Sparky. So
Fido.
anyway, Dad went to bat for me, and it was also a very pivotal, formative memory for me. And you asked about folks who are thinking about writing. Here is your nudge today. I wrote that book not knowing how little time I had left with my dad. I had no idea. He was 75. His dad lived till 90. My grandma lived to 96. We have very, very sturdy Dutch genes, okay? And so I just assumed I had 20 more years with
Yeah.
him. And so he got to read that book. He cried all the way through that book. He was at the launch party for that book crying. And so that's a nudge that if you have any questions, should I write down this story now? Yes, today. Yes, yes, yes. Do it today, today, today.
I just heard your schnauzer. Just so you know.
Should I
That
go
was the
get it?
first. No, no, that was the first time. I enjoyed
Okay,
hearing him.
there's no difference. I think your listeners have heard that dumb dog the whole time. Don't
That's fine.
report me to PETA. He is dumb.
If if it's in the background, it's in the background. It's more authentic. I
Oh,
can't hear him right now, but
gross. That's because he's not barking right
but the story about your dad that we were just referencing, you talk about the Rambo of love. And again, I think it's just like this great, connection again of these experiences that we have in our life, and then how we can learn about ourselves and about others and about God. And just the idea of your dad going door to door trying to find Sparky, young Sparky, so he can give him words of threat. Um, but just the idea of that, like, level of intensity and intentionality of God's love towards us and his care towards us and
now.
his defense of us is just such a cool takeaway. And again, I think whether it's writing for public consumption or private consumption, I just think there's so much power to writing these stories and hearing
Agreed.
ourselves think about what did I take away from that. But I just,
Mm.
more than anything, that one was just funny to me.
Yeah, that's a doozy.
As a as a dad of a
As a
daughter,
dad, totally.
as a dad of a daughter, I was like, I get it. I
Totally.
fully I fully get it.
Totally. Oh, yeah. Mark reads that story and his jaw sets. He's like, you better believe it. So, yeah, there is something about just getting those things written down. And when you think of, I mean, honestly, what I wouldn't give for my great grandma's stories, right? Not her doctrinal
Right.
thesis, that would be fine. But I really want to hear what was a Tuesday like for her, right? What did it look like? I found out that my great great grandpa and his wife took a covered wagon west from Michigan to be the pastors of a teeny tiny church where there were hardly any people. And there's a photo of them in her very impractical long skirt. She looked very warm. And they're in a covered wagon headed out, I think, to Montana. I would love to have her stories of that trip. Wouldn't you love to know like
Yeah.
what happened during the first thunderstorm? And so, if nothing else, you said private or public consumption, whatever gets you to move. But man, what a gift we give to people coming down the pike if we've written some of those things down.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. I think part of your story too that I resonated with, that I just want to chat about quickly, was your church upbringing.
Mm.
And you maybe it looks different, but you were a part of a group or a girls' ministry. What was the girls' ministry called?
The fake name is Exemplarettes.
So that's the name that you gave to it?
Yeah, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. There are a lot of nice people there. It's just that I
Yeah.
picked up the wrong messages through my time in the Exemplarettes.
But it's great. We had, I'll just throw names out. We had the Royal Rangers.
Yeah, you did.
Um,
Then you know
and
the Exemplarettes.
okay, I was gonna
My
say,
brother was a Royal Ranger.
but I mean, I just remember, like, I had mixed experiences for
Sure.
sure, and I've come to see all like the good, the best parts of it
Definitely.
in the
Definitely.
discipleship of young children in a creative manner. We raced the cars
Pinewood
and
Derby.
Pinewood
Yep.
Derby
Yep.
cars.
Yep.
Uh, I was
Right there
junior
with you.
Bible quizzer,
Good JBQ.
JBQ.
I
Okay,
haven't thought of these in a long time.
so I gotta tell
You're
you, I was
outing me. You're outing me, Stephen.
I've just discovered so much more about you. But I was just on a podcast and they knew I was a pastor, like all these things. And so at the end of the podcast, they were two 21-year-old guys. They had Bible quiz. They're like, we've got 10 Bible quiz questions for you.
How'd you do?
I
Crushed
dominated
it.
10 for
Yeah,
10.
yeah.
Just
You just say
like,
JBQ. Did you take out your Royal Rangers kerchief and like wave it around like you have
oh
no
yeah,
idea what you just asked? Yeah.
they had no clue what just hit them. But you in your story, you really talk about just like the checked boxes and just
Yeah.
like the boxed in. And I wanted to read something from your book. It's on
The
page
task
18.
lists. The task lists.
Yes.
There were lists in order to earn the award.
To
Yeah.
to earn the prizes. Well, you
Hmm.
wrote, here's the funny thing about boxes and homework assignments. The really good stuff often doesn't make it to a to-do list. I didn't write any of the most important moments of my life, many of which will find their way into these pages. I didn't itemize meeting and falling in love with my gift of a husband, Mark. No list exists for birthing my three beautiful babies or miscarrying and mourning two more. I wouldn't even know how to make a list to show how I learned about the emptiness of perfectionism, the many ways I stiff-armed God when he was teaching me how to listen to his voice, the years I kept polishing that star crown instead of getting to God as fast as I and as often as I could. The good stuff is bigger than a list. It took me a long time to realize that God is too. I just thought that was so good.
Mm.
And just that idea of whether we grew up in that in those church settings, which I don't think are just Royal Rangers and Exemplarettes
No.
and JBQ, but there is that disconnect sometimes. And again, it's not a fault of any person or system, in my opinion. But
Right.
what you just shared, just about how that changed your perspective of God, like, can you expound on that anymore?
Yeah. The I'm so glad you keep saying it was not the fault of our teachers necessarily or our
Yeah.
pastors. I mean, as a parent of three kids who are making their way in the world, I can't tell you how often I say, so I'm so sorry for all the ways your parents failed you. We tried our best. We're so clueless. And we laugh about that. I'm grateful that we can laugh about that and our many failings. But I think that positioning or that posturing is the only thing that maybe we would need to remind ourselves of over and over as we lead the next generation or as we pour into them and think, how can I help them see the insane stubborn love of God in all the ways that I interact with this human being. The posture of humility. Something happened when I became a mom that I thought, oh my gosh, I have to know everything. Perhaps it was that the hospital gives you this squalling infant and says, go ahead and take her home. I'm sure it will be fine. And you think, what? You are not sure of any such thing. Her life is in my hands.
You don't know me.
You don't know me. You didn't give me a written test. So, I don't know. I feel like in the church circles, when we forget to have that permanent curiosity about God, again, I'm neck deep in a season of saying over and over to God, okay, well, tell me more. Can you tell me more? Tell me more about who you are. I can't see all of it. It's a little bit dark here. So give me light just for the feet in front of me, right? Just for that path for my feet in front of me. And then I just need you to tell me what I need for today. That's a very healthy posture when looking at faith and when reading our Bibles and asking questions of God instead of just telling God who He is. So, what I learned, the things I learned, what you were just mentioning of like crushing Bible factoid knowledge. I mean, give me that column in Jeopardy. I'm just going to say, I'm probably going to win. And there is a piece for that. There's a place for that. I think biblical literacy is real. And I mean, obviously, we would be remiss. We would not be a lot like Jesus, actually, if we did not have biblical literacy. He spent years of his life memorizing entire gigantor sections of scripture. So let us not think we are above that. I'm definitely not saying to just throw out the baby with the bathwater. What I want to add in my own life is that call to be humble, that call to say over and over again, nevertheless, not my will, but yours. Nevertheless, I don't know it all, right? Your ways are not my ways. I'm not going to try to make you fit my mold and then attach a task list and bring it to you and say, see, I proved I'm worthy here. Because the danger then is that we start to think of God as this transaction in a vending machine. I did what you asked me, God. Surely you asked me to complete these tasks, to be this kind of person, to make sure those 10 commandments are squeaky clean, right? So now you owe me. Now you owe me a
Right.
good life. And it throws us off the ledge if we don't get what we think we deserve. So that's tricky waters. And I think we do better when we just say over and over again, here's my heart. That's the other prayer I've been saying. Please just keep my heart soft in your hands, right? I just need a soft heart because a soft heart is porous and teachable and malleable. And I want you to be the one, God, that's shaping and forming me, not my bitterness, not my anger, not my questions that are painful or snarky. I want you to be the one forming. So I have to have a soft heart for that. It's a good spot to start, middle, finish. That's what I want to be.
So good. I love it. I love it. And I think one other thing, just before we wrap up here, is, you wrote 8 fiction books, and you wrote many of them with young children. And a lot of our audience, what I'm saying is, a
Yeah.
lot of those listening are in kind of the midst of busyness, whether it's kids or just kind
Right.
of transitioning in life. And I think something that a lot of us come up against is, when can I do these things? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I prioritize? So I would just love to hear your take on doing it in the middle of all of that, like not waiting
Mm.
till the end of it to get started on the things that, God was pulling you to and calling you to, but really stepping into it in the midst of all of that, let's say it, chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. I just have not yet found the wide open space. There's never been a wide open. I thought when my kids were really little and I was starting to write, I started to write when we just had Ani, who's now 23, and she was real little and still taking naps, and I would write during nap time. And I remember at the time thinking, okay, well, when our family's a little older and everyone knows how to tie their own shoes, that will be amazing because I'll have these huge moments every day where I can just sit and swirl my sherry and light a candle and listen to Enya and write. And so far, that has not happened. And I only have one still home. I have one in high school. The other two have flown the coop. If we keep punting and we keep pushing that down the road, well, there will be a better time. I've watched so many people come through our coaching programs and at the Oaks and who contact us via the pod, and not one of them, not one, and I'm talking to hundreds of people, no one has ever said, you know what happened? All of the sudden, I won a lottery and I bought a house in the Cotswolds in England. And I became a fellow of the C.S. Lewis Institute. And they gave me, all expenses paid, 2 years to write this memoir. Never has that happened. We have to get scrappy with the dream. First, we have to decide that the dream is worth its snot, as we would say in the Midwest. Okay? We have to decide that it's just not something loosey-goosey or that it's an indulgence. You have to decide that this is really real, that God actually wired this into you, and you have to agree with him. Okay, you gave me this idea. You gave me this starter pack. I guess I need to keep moving. Got to take the baton. So first you have to decide that it's worth something. And then it's amazing once you start looking at your calendar. Just document, will ya? The next week, every hour of your day. I'm just curious for those of you saying, I don't have time. Okay. I want you to document all the things you do every day. I bet you'll find pockets where suddenly 45 minutes were wasted on Instagram, right? You binge watched something that was so great and definitely will win an Emmy, but it did take you 14 hours. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
we just have to decide. Maybe it's getting up early. You know your body. If you're not an early person, ignore that. Maybe it's staying up late. Maybe it's taking a half a Saturday, every Saturday. I bet if you ask the people you live with, hey, can I have this time? They'll say yes. So again, usually we're the speed bump. The time is there. We just have to throw a little fit with ourselves to say, no, for this season, I'm going to write this book, or I'm going to do this project, or I'm going to tackle this dream.
So good. And I think there's so many attached, correlations there because it's even just rebuilding a relationship or
Definitely.
growing friendships or, because I don't think it's just to creative projects and endeavors.
Absolutely.
I totally resonate with what you're saying is that the free time doesn't come, what I mean? Or like
Right.
it's not just going to suddenly be there. And so, no, that's very practical and very helpful. One of
Takeaway
the
for a
questions,
pastor. You liked that. Pastors love takeaway. And now let's move to application.
yes, let's move into the application and then prayer. But with the podcast, one of the things we do is anticipation and celebration. One of the big things that I've realized is that, the more we anticipate, the more we celebrate. So the more you're looking forward to, the more often you're like celebrating that thing you were looking forward to.
That's great.
And also just the idea of looking forward to things. If we just look forward to the trip 6 months from now, there's so much that we're missing that we can look at today and this week. So what's one thing that you are celebrating in your life right now, Kim?
I'm celebrating tulips because we may, as you know, fellow Midwesterners, we earn those. We earn every one of the tulips that finally come up in the spring. And I planted, when my dad died, we're Dutch. Very, very excited about being Dutch. And please don't tell me to take one of those DNA tests because it'll probably tell me I'm French or something and it will be devastating.
Yeah, your whole identity is just
It's
wrecked.
totally rocked, totally. But we think we're Dutch. And my mom was the tulip queen in Northwest Iowa, 1969. She will hate it that I just said that, but she's not behind a mic right now. And so I have a fellow Dutch friend who lives several hours away from me. And when my dad died, she sent a box of tulip bulbs to me and said, put them in the ground. You can't even think 6 months ahead right now, but just put them in the ground and you're just going to let them be. And of course she was right. and I did it cranky. I planted those cranky. They were cranky tulips. I didn't feel like it. Didn't see any reason why on this dreary, disgusting day I should be outside, but I did it. And guess what just poked through the soil under one of my favorite trees in my backyard? These beautiful tulips that have little delicate white stripes on the leaves. And my friend Laura knew. She knew. Sometimes you just have to wait a minute. Sometimes you have to believe that God will bring things back to life. So I'm celebrating my tulips right now. They are a visual to me that the story is not over yet.
That's so good. And what are you anticipating? What are you looking forward to?
My cousin Annie's getting married, and we're going to go see that happen in Temecula. And I'm super excited because we prayed for years that Annie would find the boy that made sense for her and that would just love her as much as we do. So we're going to dance it up. I'm really excited. That's in 2 weeks, so I'll be there.
Where's Temecula?
It's somewhere in
I know that.
California.
Okay.
No. Californians will be like, oh, Temecula.
You said it like it was like the most common city. Getting
it's
married
in California.
Temecula.
You know, the thing about Southern Californians is that they kind of think that the world revolves around Southern California.
That's
but
true.
I love them and their world and their knowledge of Temecula. So a little slipped in there. It's in Southern California.
That's how us North Dakotans are too. Did you see it? Did you see I had
nice
my
mug.
North Dakota mug just for you?
Do they make a lot of those or
Starbucks? Yes, they actually do.
Oh, really?
Almost every state and city.
What?
You got to get an Iowa one.
You just became so upper Midwest. You got to get an Iowa one.
You got to get an
vowels
Iowa.
went whoa. Whoop.
It's hard. It's hard not to. I have to really fight.
Don't fight it. Embrace. I love it. It's great.
Well, hey, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Where can people find you, find your books, and all the good stuff?
Probably just KimberlyStuart.com is the best. Stuart. All the social media links. You can sign up for a newsletter. I give free stuff all the time. I send things out and help people know what things I'm reading and even what I'm cooking, because everyone around here is hungry constantly. And so that's an ever present question for most of the people who are in my crew. What in the world am I going to make for dinner? So I even do that because that's real life, man. Yeah.
I love it. I appreciate you. Thanks for your friendship and just for believing in me and being so kind to hang out with me on the podcast. Appreciate you a ton.
You are easy to celebrate. Thank you for having me, Stephen. It's been so fun.
Hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Kimberly Stuart. I know I really enjoyed this conversation and really enjoyed kind of digging into not only her writing world, but also her leadership world and just how she's stepped into and grown into this season and this calling. And it's really significant. And I know many of her stories are very enjoyable, but as she shared about some of the deeper things and the harder things, I think it brought a reality to my own story and to your stories as well, that the reality is our stories have stories. Our stories tell us something, and that thing could be true or it could be false. But what I want to encourage you today is to take a moment to really think about your journey and to think about your story. And so we've got a challenge for you today, and it's the one story challenge. I'm not going to challenge you to write your own memoir because that would be crazy. But what I'm going to challenge you to do is write one story, to write one page or a couple paragraphs of your story. And this could be written to a specific person. It could be written to yourself 10 years ago or 10 years from now. But I want you to pick a person you're writing it to. I want you to pick a moment or a memory or part of your story and write about it. And if it has a lesson in it, share that. If it doesn't, just leave it hanging. Because what I want you to dig into is the fact that, one, you have a story that's powerful, that your story can impact others, but also your story is telling a story. And I want to encourage you to step into that this week. So you can go to our broadcast channel on Instagram and share it with us there. Or you can just go to stephenglosser.com patreon.com/everyday-adventure-challenge. And you can be a part of receiving these challenges every single week. But we'd love for you to subscribe, to leave a review, leave a rating, and we'll see you real soon on the Everyday Adventure podcast.